Doxxing Deplorables and the dumbest bill in America. This is Mark Fisher with Mark and the Millennials. And the Millennials joining me today are Andrew the Fuji Fujiniti and Ryan the Squirrel Brady. And of course, our producer, Adam Coutura. Welcome, everyone. First up, we have Congressman Joaquin Castro doxed 44 Trump donors. All of these donors are in the San Antonio area. And of course, Congressman Joaquin Castro is also from San Antonio. And this is really incredibly un-American. We have a clip on this as he tries to defend himself. Here is Congressman Joaquin Castro.
Before I get into the discussion, I want to mention that some of these Republicans said that I doxed these people. Doxing is when you tell somebody's physical address or phone number. None of that was in this graphic that I shared, which was first put up and circulated by a local indivisible group. My post was actually a lament. If you look at my language, I said that it's sad that these folks, many of whom are prominent business owners in San Antonio, a city that's about 65% Hispanic, their customers, the people that have made them wealthy, their employees, the people that have worked for them for years, many of those folks are Hispanic, and they're giving their money to a guy who's running ads talking about Hispanics invading this country.
This is uniquely millennial, this whole doxing thing, because this whole word is new, of course, to the American lexicon because of millennials. Please tell me about this and what you think about doxing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's part of that, like, cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
I mean, his excuse was kind of lame, if you ask me. I mean, this is clearly doxing. Like, the intention was the same, whether or not it's public information or not. Like, you didn't provide their addresses, no, okay, but you singled out business owners.
Prominent business people.
Essentially, you're saying, yeah, like, let's boycott these businesses. Look at these people because of their political beliefs, right? You're attacking their political beliefs. I mean, what happened to, the left being the party of tolerance and this whole rallying cry of love Trump's hate? It's like now they're literally saying, like, if you support Trump, you believe everything that he believes, which is just ridiculous claim.
Yeah, broad paint strokes are not going to get you far. And also by doxing these business people, you're also going to hurt the local economy, because if those economies are getting boycotted and if it's a local small town community, guess what? It's going to hurt everyone involved, because they're probably providing services that are integral to the economy itself in El Paso. So it was short-sighted of him to do it. We knew what his intent was. It was lame and it was stupid, and he was ridiculed for it throughout all of the news media. It's like, so really, why did you do that?
So guys, these aren't rich people. These are the federal maximum donation is $2,800 per individual. These are business individuals. And so we're not talking about millionaires and billionaires or political activists or public figures. The congressman curated a list of retirees and business owners whose only sin was displeasing him. This is according to Town Hall. And I just want to say this, in Town Hall it says, the purpose of tweeting those names wasn't merely to bully those who have already donated to Trump's reelection, but also to warn anyone in his district thinking about contributing to consider potential retaliatory public attacks on their businesses or worse. Now, given the issue of gun violence in the United States, given the issue of course, this whole political divide, the idea that you can just expose who is giving to one campaign or another, and even though it's public record, I'm well aware of that, but you have to really dig hard to find it. And that he's putting that out there. What he's basically saying is, hey, don't go shopping at those businesses. Maybe hurt those business people. I mean, he's kind of partially responsible. Let's talk about that.
He's putting words in their mouth, in the business's mouth, business owner's mouth. I mean, just because they donated to a campaign, which is, I think in that article also that says that 6 of the donors that he tried outing also donated to his brother's presidential campaign.
Exactly. Thank you. Honestly, broad paint strokes. Not everyone that donates to Trump's going to be supporting Trump's every single move, every single time he even speaks. Because sometimes when he speaks, he ignites a dumpster fire, and everyone's like, really? Come on, man. I know you're Trump being Trump, but dude, the fire was going out. Why did you reignite it and cause more headaches?
Exactly. And a lot of people don't know that former mayor Julian Castro, excuse me, it could be Julian as well, obviously in Spanish. I know that. But most people call him Julian Castro, who's running for president. He's the former mayor of San Antonio. He's also the twin brother of Joaquin Castro, and who did the doxing. Since he's a presidential candidate, of course, the media asked him, do you think that's okay? What do you think about it? And we have a clip on that, and here it is.
Joaquin did that, as he said, as a lament that in our city that is more than 60% Hispanic, you have companies, whether it's Bill Miller's or others, that have built their whole fortune off of the Hispanic community and have a lot of Hispanic employees that are taking that money, their profit, and are putting that money into the pocket of a politician, Donald Trump, that is putting ads on Facebook, calling it an invasion and fostering hate and division toward the Hispanic community.
So Julian is doubling down on what his brother did with doxing, basically saying these are bad people because they gave money to Donald Trump. Because apparently in America now you don't have free association. We have the right of association, not just the right to give money to whomever we want who's running for office, but the right of association. And he's saying you don't have the free right of association. Well, I mean, please, millennials. I mean, your generation. What do you think?
It's a few things. Like, first, man, they passed those talking points to Juan Castro, to Julian Castro real fast. And on top of that, if anyone's surprised by the demographic makeup of El Paso, give me a break. Placing that off as a statistic. No, El Paso for the whole, because he was attacking the El Paso community itself, and that was my understanding. Okay. Or just in general, El Paso's right on the border. So if you're surprised by the demographic makeup, come on. That's a stupid point to make up, really. Yeah. But honestly,
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a defamation suit by one of these business owners if it does actually affect their business.
So a number of congressmen, Fuji, actually have filed a complaint with the ethics folks in Congress. Of course, they govern themselves when it comes to ethics complaints about the fact that we can't let this happen. While it is legal to do so, their point is it's unethical to do so. Well, I mean, thoughts? Well, I mean, is it unethical to?
Yeah, I agree so because it's intimidation. There's no doubt. I mean, you're essentially they're creating a list of these are the people that should be shamed for supporting Donald Trump. And like Ryan was saying, I think it's ridiculous. This is a party that's supposed to be very tolerant of other people's beliefs and stuff. And what they're saying is that if you give money to the Trump campaign, you believe in everything that he said. You are a racist. You are a bigot. You are this. It's like you don't know what. Just because somebody gave money doesn't mean they may have been for one specific thing. It's like, all right, I support
by the way,
this.
some of the donors also gave to Joaquin.
Right, as well. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you can
Castro,
believe it or not. Donors. People are complex and they can have varied beliefs. Like just because you gave money to a campaign doesn't mean they are saying that it means you are 100% everything Trump stands for. It's wrong.
Unfortunately, it's a common idea that pops in my head when someone actually outs people about their political affiliations or where they donate their money to political campaigns, is that because unfortunately, all too common, we see deranged people on the left and on the right that may take things too far or become violent, and we've seen plenty of examples through the past few decades where that has happened, where, there are people that are not on the level, it's like kind of like, well, why are you, it could be almost potential target saying, oh, I support this guy so much, I'm going to do him a favor and get rid of these people. It's like not saying that may happen, but there's a fear now because now it's like, well, you just basically put a target list on me. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yes, and all that does is it fuels the fire of people who say to themselves, you know what, I just can't trust the other side at all because now they're trying to make me a target because of what I believe. In fact, we have here that the group is called the Texas 44. These are the individuals that gave to the Trump campaign. That got doxxed. And basically, they've decided that they're going to raise another $1 million or at least $1 million for the Trump 2020 campaign. Wow. So it's had the complete opposite effect from what they really wanted. I mean, this whole thing is ridiculous. Go ahead. Squirrel.
Also, the media also went after the Castro saying, really, you did this? Come on. That's so short-sighted and so petty. And honestly, it's not going to get you the same effect as we just seen from the statistic Mark just read out about they're going to raise the money and give to Trump. It's like, okay, there we go. Have fun.
So next up, Beto O'Rourke. So the Democratic presidential candidate, Beto O'Rourke, said that it's really hard. Yeah, Robert Francis O'Rourke said that it's really hard not to view people who vote for President Trump's reelection as racist. Here is a clip of good old Beto O'Rourke. Don't we have that?
You said to me last week that you thought President Trump was a white nationalist. I just wonder, sir, President Trump won your home state of Texas by 9 points. Almost 63 million Americans voted for him. Do you think it's racist to vote for President Trump in 2020?
I think it's really hard after everything that we've seen from his time as a candidate in 2016 to his repeated warnings of invasions to his repeated calls to send them back, sending back people who are U.S. citizens, sending back people who were born in this country. his description of white nationalists and Klansmen and neo-Nazis as very fine people, his warnings of Muslims as being somehow inherently defective or dangerous and attempting to ban them from entry.
That's really hard to listen to, just to say. It's so hard to listen to because what he's basically saying is that, because Donald Trump doesn't believe, and his supporters don't believe, that you should get free health care just because you cross the border, or that you should get free college just because you cross the border, or that you should get free food just because you cross the border, or you should get free everything just because you cross the border, that makes you a racist because you happen to agree with that individual because you realize it is not sustainable to maintain a country with open borders, and it's not sustainable to remain a country if everything is free just because you cross a border. Mm-hmm. So tell me, millennials, come on.
I think it's funny because a lot of the European countries that offer a lot of these free services like free college and free healthcare, you have to be a legitimate citizen to even take from those services. So by the fact of you crossing the border illegally and saying, I deserve all this because I crossed the border, I'm seeking asylum, doesn't mean you're a citizen. So the services should not necessarily be available to you because you're not putting anything forward to it. Like there are immigrants in our country that are actually working and putting forward into their economy. So
absolutely.
They should be available to have those services because they're actually contributing and paying taxes and being part of society. Yeah, should we bring them in the fold through a legal naturalization process where there's citizenship after a period of time? Yes, we got to fix the system. But, it felt like it was a long-winded speech by Beto O'Rourke again or Robert Francis, and it was like checking off every single box that could be bad about Trump, bad about everything, bad about the country.
Virtue signaling.
And yes, and then on top of that, he's trying to probably get to the next debate stage if there's another primary debate, which I'm not aware of, but who knows?
Of course he will.
Yeah, what I found interesting is this: you got Robert Francis O'Rourke here giving his speech, and he's talking about how Trump is dividing the country, and his plan for uniting everyone is drawing a big box, putting all the Trump supporters in there, and calling them racist. So that's how he's going to unite people. Like
that really brings us together. You're
yeah,
right,
I mean,
Bougie.
I think what he's doing is actually, and I think a lot of the candidates is they're just fueling this deplorable surge that happened, when Hillary called him out. I mean, you can't draw a box. Like I've said this in the last segment with Castro. You can't draw a box and say, A equals everything else, right? It's like I can believe in certain policies and support a candidate based on that. I don't have to, believe in his stance on certain social issues or whatnot. And they're making that mistake again.
Absolutely.
And you're seeing this now even more as we go along in each political cycle. We're losing the art of compromising. That's how our country works. We subscribe to certain values that I believe all Americans subscribe to. We may think of different ways of solving issues, but the fact is, I think this way, so I'm right, and all your ideas are horrible. We're not going to fix the issue, and you're going to kick the can down the road where generations are going to, they did that. I'm going to keep doing it. And we're seeing this partisan circus go with nothing being fixed. And it's like, hey guys, we're 23 trillion plus in debt. We have an immigration problem. We need to fix it. And you're just making everyone be vilified for not agreeing with you.
Absolutely.
It's stupid.
You're right. So next up, Chris Cuomo goes crazy after a heckler calls him Fredo.
That's funny.
We have a clip on this. You have to listen to it. Here it is.
I thought that's who you were.
No, punk from the right called me Fredo. My name is Chris Cuomo. I'm an anchor on CNN.
You're much.
Fredo is from The Godfather. He was that weak
Good movie.
brother.
Isn't that your
And
brother?
they use it as an Italian aspersion. Any of you Italian? Are you Italian?
I got a little
It's a insult to your people. It's an insult to your people. It's like the N-word for us.
Ooh, dude.
It's not an Italian aspersion. It's an aspersion to an individual who basically betrays his family and is really weak. That's really what it is. And they're saying that, he's someone who's not loyal. He betrays his family. He's, and it's obviously an insult.
Great movie, though.
But it has nothing to do with his Italian heritage. I mean, gentlemen,
Yeah, I
what
can
do you
see
think?
the correlation, obviously, because you're talking about an Italian mob family.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's an insult. There's no doubt. Like I'm partly Italian in name for sure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
But, and I would take
Fortuniti,
that.
Fortuniti,
I would take this as an insult for sure. I wouldn't take it as an insult to my Italian heritage. I'd take it as like I'm a backstabber to my family. Like I don't think I'd jump straight to be like, oh, you're being.
And Chris Cuomo's correlation to another epithet was like, dude.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's comparable.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm an anchor at CNN.
I can say whatever I want.
And what's funny too is the Trump campaign turned this around like on a dime time, and they started selling Fredo unhinged T-shirts.
Wow.
when the video went viral.
Wow.
I mean, can you imagine everybody, like maybe 1,000 people gathering around CNN's New York headquarters
and watch his head explode?
So, CNN kind of needs that, because this guy in particular, Chris Cuomo, he's one of the most dishonest news anchors I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is indeed not everything, but much of what they do is fake news. And it's almost like someone calls them up from the DNC and says, hey, here are your talking points today. Make sure you talk about these, Chris Cuomo. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Though that interaction may not be as black and white, though, because apparently he was with his family, so he may have been a little on edge when some random guy called him up and started, maybe
I was going to ask,
heckling.
do we know the context as to why he called him Fredo?
I think he was with I heard he was with his daughter. That's not substantiated right now. I don't have my source, but basically that was like, he might have been on edge because some stranger came up to you and like, hey, Fredo, and started talking, and it's like, whoa,
But do we know what he was referring to when he called him like Fredo? Why
no clue.
No. But you know what? By looking at his body language, he reminds me of that bully in high school. I mean, you could just tell he was a big bully. If he wasn't then he certainly is today. That's what he reminds me of.
Yeah,
because what he should have done is come up with a response, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's what bullies do. They can't come up with an intelligent response. So like, oh yeah, I'm going to beat you up. I mean, that's
stay calm, cool, and collected.
If I was like my family and somebody called me out in public and was trying to, I'd probably be pretty upset.
But in the video, you had a bunch of dudes, bald-headed dudes with sunglasses on, like looking like a bodyguard. So I'm like, dude, if you have protection, there you go. Just walk away from it. Don't keep.
Okay, so next up, American gold medalist takes a knee during the national anthem at the Pan Am Games. I know, here we go again. It's Race Imboden, I believe that's how you say his last name, Race Imboden. He was in Lima, Peru, and he, of course, won a gold medal, and he says, we must call for change. And he says this on Twitter. This week I am honored to represent Team USA in the Pan Am Games. What? Well, let's call for change. He's honored, so therefore he takes a knee. Here we go again. What do you guys think?
Hey, it's freedom of expression. I don't agree with it, but honestly, if you're representing your country on an international stage, you should put the best foot forward and not always bring up what may be happening internally and that we're trying to figure out ourselves.
So you are free to do that, but
Yeah.
isn't it kind of ridiculous? I mean, that this is still going on because here's a guy who's so fortunate, right? He has this God-given talent.
Yep.
And this is what upsets me.
And trained really hard.
He has talent that none of us here have. At least I don't think we do.
No, probably
not. And he makes national news anyway because he wins this gold medal, and it's not enough. He tries to politicize it, which has nothing to do with the task at hand.
It kind of ruins the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ryan. He has the right to do it. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell him you can't do it, but I agree that it's also poorly timed. I mean, you're like you said, Mark. This guy has amazing talent. He just won a gold medal. It's probably like one of his greatest life achievements, and you're using it to make a political statement. It's like relish in the moment, and recognize your accomplishment. Don't use it to attack the country that gave you that opportunity.
It's going to be 5 seconds of fame. Everyone's going to be like, oh, who's this guy again? It's going to be done.
Yeah.
So next up, The Hunt, which is a new movie, right?
I was looking forward
it's
to
called
that.
The Hunt. It's a film directed by Craig Zobel, and it is and also co-produced by him. It's a horror film. And it's producer Jason Blum. So let me say that again. Craig Zobel and film producer Jason Blum depicts privileged vacationers hunting so-called deplorables for sport. Okay? And this is, of course, on top of this particular movie was going to be released. It's on top of the recent shootings. And they decided to pull the movie. And we have a clip on this. We're going to play this. We're going to have a really interesting discussion about this. Here's the clip.
Your idea is incredible.
I can't argue with that. We pay for everything. So this country belongs to us.
It's just business. Hunting human beings for sport.
They're not human beings.
Yeah, so deplorables are not human beings. We're talking about Doxxing Deplorables, this podcast, and now we're talking about The Hunt, which is an actual movie produced in Hollywood to kill deplorables.
Yeah, timing wasn't that great, was it, for this movie to come out? Or
Is it ever great? Is it ever great to in a country that is divided as the United States right now politically, is it ever great to make a movie that says it's okay to kill your political opponent just because of what he believes politically?
Well, it's belittling a human life at the end of that trailer clip that we just played. You're basically saying human life is worthless. It's like you can do whatever you want with it because you don't agree with them. They're deplorables.
Yeah, and I didn't actually think about it like the way you're talking about it. Like I think when I first saw the trailer, I actually thought this was an attack on the elites because it's saying like they're saying like, oh, we're rich, we pay for everything in this country
so
anyways.
removed.
Yeah, they're so removed, and it's an attack on like what they believe that like the 99% is almost like a Bernie supporting movie where it's like the 1%'s evil and the 99% are just nobodies. We can kill them all off.
What's killing
which I
people
found interesting because it's coming from Hollywood, right? So you think they're part of the elites as well. So.
Yeah, they're killing the deplorables, the so-called poor people in the countryside because they're a burden on society and so forth. I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think there's going to be a point of satire because honestly, if you think liberals can beat deplorables, because if liberals shy away from like using firearms, using guns, but deplorables always have guns, know how to use guns, know how to do basic survival instincts based on stereotypes, it flips over. You think I think the deplorables would actually have the winning day. There's probably gonna be some satire in there. And honestly, I was looking forward to it because I was like, no, they're setting this up to where if the liberal elites are gonna win or have the upper hand, all of a sudden the deplorables are gonna get a hold on stuff like a little
Strength
kid.
in numbers.
Oh yeah, it's like come on, they're hunting with a bow, and it's also as Adam Couture, our producer again, basically mentioned it was.
Thank you, Squirrel. Thank you.
He's alive. He's back there. They were using a recurve bow, and then all of a sudden you see the deplorables holding an AR-15, and they're making the way out to escape from this most dangerous game and novel idea. Not a novel idea. It's been around for decades.
Yeah, but the thing is this is the idea of a bunch of rich people, of course, going in the countryside and just for sport. And of course, this is very similar to the Hunger Games. And we have a quick clip on that just to give you a memory of the Hunger Games.
Happy Hunger Games, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
And The Hunger Games, I really like that movie because the whole purpose of the movie is to talk about the possibility and the reality of true dictatorship and totalitarianism and what it really looks like, right? There's fear by the wealthy and landed class, and there's fear by everybody else who actually does all the work. And with the movie The Hunt, you're actually not, of course, going after just one group. You're going after anyone that just disagrees with you politically, doesn't have money. I don't know. What do you guys think? Just final thoughts on this.
It can be viewed as tone deaf, and is like, really, is this movie actually adding anything to like cinema in a good light?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, Hollywood's been pretty bad putting out movies, and this is just a regurgitation of like a bunch of different movies. I mean, I think one of the directors did The Purge, so it's like a common theme of like his movies. It's like you might want to get a little more creative.
Yeah, and they came up with this idea. Hey, there are these things called deplorables. There are these people called deplorables. Let's just make a movie about that. Because wouldn't that be funny, huh? Because in Hollywood, we don't know any deplorables because we're just so special. I mean, you can just see them having that meeting, in the initial pre-production meeting.
Great, this will sell.
Exactly. Couture, you had something to say, I could tell, but you backed off of it. I could tell.
I was just going to say, I thought The Hunger Games was about what do you do if you're a teenage girl and two boys like you? So, that's what The Hunt's missing. A good old-fashioned love triangle.
Uniquely millennial perspective. So next up, Joe Biden says poor kids are just as smart as white kids. What? Woo. He did it, folks. Here's the clip.
And the other thing we should do is we should challenge these students. We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids.
Awkward
kids,
clapping.
And they're clapping, yeah.
Kids.
All 8 of them.
But think how we think about it.
I thought it was possible to be poor and be of almost any color or any race or any creed, right? But it isn't, right? I mean, you tell me. I mean, what am I missing here?
I don't think race has anything to do with that. That's why
it doesn't.
Why did you bring it into the? Yeah,
this
is a pretty bad gaffe. Again,
Uncle Joe,
another one by
hot.
Uncle Joe. I saw a really good political cartoon that I think like.
I mean, it sounded a little bit like a white nationalist talking. Maybe Beto should talk about Joe Biden.
Yeah,
well, they're gunning for him.
I saw this really good political cartoon. It was Joe standing behind the podium, just obviously giving a speech, and one of his, staffers is standing next to him, whispering into his ear, saying, "Don't worry." And there's I think 4 people in the crowd kind of thing, and they're like, "Don't worry about the crowd size or that you made that mistake. Like you're still leading Trump in the polls." And I'm just like, that's hits it on the money because you hear 5 people clapping during that speech that he's giving, and he's gaffe after gaffe, and yet he is still leading Trump at the polls, and so they're being blindly led to think that this is going to be another victory for them. Like, just like Hillary thought, I'm leading the polls. Like, it's a shoo-in. Biden's going to do it. And I think
Squirrel, don't you just want to see those two be the winners of their respective parties, Biden versus Trump in a general election, and watch them in like 2 or 3 debates? Can you imagine the show that would be?
That would be a barn burner. Give me a 30-pack and a couch. I'm going to have Fox News, MSNBC on, CNN. I'm going to watch this whole thing go down. It's going to be great.
CNN's going to explain away everything that Biden says, that of course it's a complete gaffe. And of course, on the other side, you're going to have Fox saying, well, Trump's been saying that all along. And I mean, it's just, I don't know.
It's not new.
Exactly. It would be such a mess. So next up, Trump has a new plan to ensure that non-citizens do not abuse the nation's public benefits. It says here, the Trump administration is taking action to help ensure that non-citizens in the United States are self-sufficient and not a strain on public resources. The press secretary's release says, actually just recently. And this is really kind of interesting because it really frames a difference between the two sides, right? On the one side, they say, who here believes that healthcare should be free for people who are here in the United States illegally? And every single Democrat raised their hand.
They want the votes.
And here, you have the other side, you have the Trump administration, the President of the United States, and Ken Cuccinelli basically saying, you know what? If you're here in the United States, even if you're here legally, you shouldn't be abusing our welfare system, and you shouldn't be here and stay here just for that reason. You should actually be, contributing to the United States because we're allowing you to stay here. So we actually have a clip on this, and here it is.
President Trump's administration is reinforcing the ideals of self-sufficiency and personal responsibility, ensuring that immigrants are able to support themselves and become successful here in America.
There you go. Personal responsibility. Folks, I got to tell you, this is, if there were anything generational, it is that term. Personal responsibility, because as a baby boomer, that's all I heard growing up. You were personally responsible for your actions, and when you do things that are wrong and you have a consequence to it, that's the way you stop doing that same thing in the future. You learn. You're supposed to learn from your mistakes. And there's this idea that there shouldn't be any consequences. You cross the border, you stay here, you get free stuff. And the United States is a place where at one time for immigrants, there would be a purpose. When you came here, you would actually have the church help you, or your temple help you, or your family. You had some family relatives. It could be distant relatives, and you would come to the United States and they would help you, or your community help you. If you were Italian, you would move to the Italian section in New York City, or Irish, or what have you. But now, of course, it's necessary to have this order by Ken Cuccinelli and the President of the United States, Ken Cuccinelli being the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services acting head. And we have to do this because of the simple fact that we have an entire party basically telling the rest of the world, come here for the free stuff. I want to hear what you have to say about this. Come on.
So the key caveat of personal responsibility is a key foundation of being an adult. And honestly, I find that
doesn't sound very millennial. I'm just saying.
I'm sorry. I guess I'm born in the wrong century. I guess.
I'm gonna get a hit on that, Adam.
Whatever. There we go. I take it. But anyways, no. But I understand why the welfare system is there, but it's not meant to be permanently used. You need it. It's helped you stabilize your life and help you get out of it. Not saying I'm going to stay there for the rest of my life. There's plenty of opportunities of advancement, and it's basically based upon your drive to bring yourself out of that to actually be self-sufficient based upon your own merit and your own work. That's where I come from.
Sure, makes sense.
I think, I think it's a true philosophical difference. I mean, between right and left. I mean, the conservative movement and the socialist movement of the far left liberals is that they believe it's the government's role and responsibility to provide apparently everything to the citizens, which is really scary because then you become completely self-reliant on the government, whereas you used to be self-reliant on yourself, right? You depended on yourself for everything, and that's where the battle lines are drawn right now, is to which way do we want our country to be. So it's, I mean, obviously.
And Andrew, there are a whole bunch of people in the United States who have been referred to disparagingly as deplorables by the left. And here they are. Many of them do live in the countryside, or they live in small towns. And some of them just live outside of big cities, within striking distance, an hour or so from outside big cities. And they have to pay for their own health care. They can't afford college, or they have to go to community college. They are struggling. They're trying to keep up with the technological changes in the United States. And they're seeing this, and they're saying to themselves, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time that we finally do this. Maybe it's fine. Go ahead.
Well, I think something that people forget, and I think this is something that the Trump administration has also struggled with, but in a move like this, it sounds like they're trying to correct it, is that we've been expanding entitlements, and the left wants to expand them even further, yet the country, at a time where we're economically doing one of the greatest economic boom we've ever had, is continuing to drive ourselves deeper and deeper in debt.
We're still in the red,
man. It's like, where is this money? Like, why people forget? Like, where it sounds great. Like when you just try and throw a moral argument, it's like, yeah, we should give free education, we should give free healthcare, we should support everyone. It's like, but how? Like,
how are you
it's
gonna
not
pay
just
for
like it's not just tax. I mean, we're in so much debt as a nation. It's like it's not sustainable. And doing the responsible thing, is actually like you got to make hard decisions.
Yeah, you can't keep saying tax the 1%. Granted, there needs to be compromise in how to fix the debt and balance the budget, which, needs to happen.
Yeah, and Trump's done a horrible job at it, too. A lot of the past Republican, the Bush administration did an awful job at it. They've all done awful jobs.
They fumbled it.
They're blowing out the deficit, no doubt.
They keep kicking it down the road, and before you know it, you're going to have people that are the millennials that will be eventually some are already elected to positions of power in our government, but it's like you're going to have the majority of them in there, and then it's like, okay, let's see how they figure this out. It's like, I'm not looking for that day.
Yeah.
Well, the boomers need the millennials to pay for their Social Security, as I've said many times in the past. So
you're welcome.
That's all we're thinking about. So, a really funny story, which we love to do these stories.
Woo!
Millennials, if you are hoping for a second date, you need to share your food. So, it says that in the Daily Mail, couples who share dessert on their first date are twice as likely to see each other again. So we have, 2 millennials here that are single and one that's married. I just want to know.
Oh man, I've been doing it wrong. I haven't been ordering dessert. Usually I share my fries.
Well, I think not only, I guess, according to the study, is it a good idea for the relationship to be successful. I think it's good practice. Anyone who's been in a relationship knows that as soon as you get in a relationship, when you order a meal, it's no longer just yours.
What's mine is yours.
You may think it is, but it's not your meal.
I wish I had this information a long time ago. I mean, it would have been really helpful.
Social cue class around to say, hey, this is what you got to do. I'm like, oh, great, thanks.
Squirrel's just hoping his date shows up. I mean, he's not even worried.
That's true. That has happened a few too many times.
You may get a lot of emails or like fake Facebook.
Oh, good God.
Connections as a result of this. So next up, it's that time again. We have the dumbest bill in America. Do we have music, Adam Coutura?
Yes, we do.
No way, we do?
This one goes out to Roger.
Roger, we have music.
Is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Classic.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I've been there before.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
I love it. I love it, Adam Couture. That's our new prelude to the dumbest bill in America. Job well done. And the dumbest bill in America is from, of course, Senator Elizabeth Warren, who introduced a bill to end food insecurity on college campuses. Let me say that again. Elizabeth Warren introduced a bill to end food insecurity on college campuses. She calls it the College Student Hunger Act of 2019 to address hunger on college campuses. As a boomer, I have some really unique perspectives on this, but I want to hear what the millennials have to say because you guys are closer to being out of college than I am.
Senator Warren's really going for that millennial vote. Like, honestly, I get phone calls from my college saying, hey, can you please donate? $40 to the college.
And you're still trying to pay off your credit card. So.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to save money for like a down payment on a house and actually have like a security nest egg just in case something bad happens, you know? Like, but
you have food insecurity and you're a college graduate, so yeah.
Well, yeah, because I spend money right, and thankfully I got a good job too.
And this is we just talked about expanding entitlements, and she is on a roll. I tell you what, she's a gem when it comes to that. I mean, I guess she thinks the government is basically equivalent to daddy's credit card. It's like, we'll fix everything. Don't worry. If you have a problem, come to us. We'll fix it. This is incredible. We also talked about self-responsibility. It's like if you're granted, I feel like there's a college industrial complex where like we're being led to saying like you have to go there. But as an individual, you should look at it and be like, if you can't afford to feed yourself, you probably can't afford college.
Community college is a good option too.
I mean,
it's cheaper.
Your generation, and I know plenty of people that they went to college, but they worked all the way through it. They did night classes. They did things because they had to pay for those things like food, housing, all that kind of stuff. You can't just go throw yourself into college and be like, oh, I can't afford food now. Government save me.
My father said, hey, you're going to go to college, but I'm not going to pay for it. That's what my father said. So I'm like, there's a disconnect here, Dad. So I mean, but there are these. Look, we have community colleges. We also have jobs. And I just want to say this. All through college, I worked. I was a bartender. All through. And that was an expectation in order to pay for college. I did have to borrow as well. But this idea, and by the way, this is important. I worked in a restaurant as a bartender because I knew that the food on the college campus was really expensive. Ooh. And I was not on the food plan. And
those are expensive too.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that was the only way I could afford to go to college. So I actually knew that if I worked at a restaurant, I would have food at the restaurant at a reduced rate. Mm-hmm. That's how I got myself through. And then I could walk out each night with cash in my pocket that I could use for spending money for coffee or for whatever else I needed during that particular day. And that's why this is so foreign to me, because it's just, and Squirrel, you said it, she is so pandering to millennials and to all young people who, and she's also assuming that you should go to college. And then, Fuji, you said, you made a great point, which is, look, if you can't afford to eat at college, then maybe you should go from high school to the workforce first and go part-time, right, in the local community college, a place that's typically a lot more affordable. I mean, come on, thoughts.
I think you got to take into consideration too, a counterpoint to your argument that everyone on the left makes is that, sure, you can work through college, but it's a lot more expensive than it was, like, say, 20, 30 years ago.
Legit.
But look at why it's more expensive.
Yeah.
It's because the people like Elizabeth Warren are pushing that everyone needs to go to college.
Exactly.
The cost is overinflated.
Yes.
And they've made borrowing money from the federal student programs that are out there, like
easy.
Sallie Mae.
And states,
they've made it
too.
so easy. I mean, they basically don't even do a credit report. When you go into Sallie Mae and you apply, it's like a really soft credit report. It's like, oh, you want to go to college? That's fine, because we know that you're not going to have to pay this until 6 months after you graduate from college. The colleges know they're going to get this money because the federal government's ultimately fronting the money for you, so they jack up the tuition.
Interest rate, too, on those loans.
Oh, yeah, it's 9, 10, 11% easily.
If you can get a $200K loan to go to college, could you get the same loan to start a business?
Or get a down payment on a house.
That's a great point.
And to flip this on the head, though, it's all these I think you almost coined a term, the college industrial complex, the CIC. But basically, you know what happens? They're so bloated with cash, influx with cash, they're spending on all these ridiculous things. Guess what? They should be able to have free food services for all these college kids because they're flush with cash.
As much money as they're making,
Yeah, and keep in mind, this is on top, Squirrel, of her previous proposal just a month ago to make all colleges affordable, in particular public colleges throughout the United States.
So let's go back to the 1970s where it was like a couple $100 for a semester.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea, she says, of course, she also said that, public colleges should be affordable. I'm sure she eventually believes that private colleges should be as well. They should be affordable and free. Then the federal government would pay for it. And of course, she attacks the 1% or 2% of Americans who are the alleged wealthy who are going to pay for it. We all know that that's not going to happen.
It's going to fall down to everyone else.
It's not enough money, right? It's not enough money to cover that. And also,
actually, there is enough money. It's just in the wrong hands.
It's just in the wrong hands. And not to mention, there's this whole idea, as you said, Fuji, that everybody should go to college, that it's a right. It's not a right. It's a responsibility that you have to pay for if you want to go to college, and you don't have to choose a college that is $65,000 a year. You can choose a college that is a lot less expensive. You don't have to go full-time. You can go part-time. There are choices in life, and you're best starting to learn those choices right now when you're out of high school starting college.
And we brought this up in prior podcasts that our education system has conditioned future generations to say you need to go to college, where actually a trade job is should be just as fulfilling, and actually you're going to be actually pretty well off because it's rewarding work. There's a shortage in the trade jobs now, and actually you can start your own business, be your own man.
Paid, yeah,
and you're highly skilled. You're going to be sought after for quality work. That's either government contracts or state contracts, or independent business hiring you out. Exactly. It's crazy.
Exactly. So next up we have Barity. It is a technology. It's a wallet that holds your credit cards, but it's digital. And in addition to that, the wallet also charges all of your devices. You don't plug your devices into the wallet. You put the devices on top of it. So it's like
wireless
wireless charger, which is pretty cool. But in addition to that, if you don't want to carry a million different credit cards, you have this particular wallet and you use it as a charging facility as well as for credit cards. And anyway, I think it's kind of cool. So I thought it was neat to talk about. Yeah. And we have a clip on that. Here it is.
Aren't you tired of all these unnecessary features on your smart wallet? Meet Barati, the cocky wallet with a custom-designed wireless power bank and wireless payment system.
Has some attitude.
Yeah. We've customized the standard 10-watt QI charger to deliver 2,500 milliamperes of power much faster. With Barati, you can charge simultaneously as many devices as you can place on it.
So, of course, the other feature is that there's a lot of built-in security, so someone can, of course,
RFID protection, probably.
Thank you. Of course, our cybersecurity guy here. That really helps. And so what do you guys think? You like us?
Well, I had never heard the term milliamperes before, but it sounds really
I'm
fancy.
not an electrician. That went over my head.
Sounds great.
It's a cool product, but though I'm kind of content with my leather-bound wallet and holding on my plastic cards.
Yeah,
I haven't now. I'm kind of sucker for that.
I haven't made
a traditionalist.
Wow, that's so not millennial. I thought you guys
am a traditionalist, man. Come on.
I mean, I am in certain things, but I haven't made the move to like the whole like Apple Pay thing.
Oh
on my phone. Like,
I have not done that.
Either whether it be cash or like a physical card. Like I prefer that. Feels safer to me. I don't know.
I thought I would buy those Ridge wallets or RFID protecting. They're minimalist, but that's about it.
Sure. And a Consumer Electronics Show is in Las Vegas every single year, and they have a whole bunch of devices just like this because apparently that's the thing. The thing is that you don't have this bulky wallet that you carry around. It's still kind of bulky, don't get me wrong, but instead of having a million different cards, you want to protect them, and it's always the next thing.
It's
to protect
utilitarian. It's putting a lot of functionality and a lot of features into one package, and that's all that we can ask for. That's technology advancing, making our lives easier. So
exactly.
That's all we can ask for.
Well, that's it for Mark and the Millennials. I want to thank you for joining Mark and the Millennials. This is Mark Fisher. Thank you, Andrew, the Fujaniti, and Ryan, the Squirrel Brady, and of course, our producer, Adam Katora. Check us out on YouTube and Facebook. See you next time.